Okay, finishing up the book of Mark. Again, reminder in case you turned off the video and are watching it again, primarily to a Roman Christian audience. So not necessarily a Jewish audience, a Roman audience. Most likely was written by Mark, who was one of Peter's disciples. So Peter, a disciple, then asked Mark to write the account of these things. Now, Mark was also an eyewitness to all these things. Cousin to Barnabas. His mother was one of the Marys mentioned. He was likely on all of these, many of these things he witnessed firsthand. He did go on the missionary journey with Paul and Barnabas. So he was part of that circle. He wasn't just a scribe for Peter. He witnessed these events. Likely the first written account requested by Peter. So this is probably why. Remember the video where we talked about the Q and the fact that Mark is the source from all the other sources? So Mark probably wrote it down as requested by Peter as the disciples moved away, and some of them were, killed, and some of them were getting older. Peter, who was the first pope or the first head of the church, wanted a written account so everyone would be aware of the things that Jesus did. So this was most likely, again, we don't know for sure, 2,000 years ago, most likely the first written account of all of these things, at least in the order that Peter remembered them and Mark was there as well. There needed to be a written account of this news so everyone was, on the same page. This meant introducing Jesus to the ordinary Roman Christian as a servant of God. Not, Matthew, remember, is introducing Jesus as the Messiah to the Jewish culture. This is Mark introducing Jesus as a servant to the people of Rome. He emphasizes what makes Jesus unique. He emphasizes him as a servant and of the things he's done. So there are 4 parables, 4 stories, but 20 miracles. Some will say Mark is the book of more works, less words. So Mark is saying, here are the things that Jesus did, not just the stories and the teachings. Versus Matthew, which really emphasized the stories and the teachings and a proof that he was the Messiah, his superior understanding of Scripture, for example, and the things that he did. Whereas Mark is just talking to the common Roman citizen, most of which are servants, if you know anything about Roman culture, and saying, here are the miracles that this servant God did for you. It is concise. It is not wordy. Of course, Peter is the predominant disciple depicted because it was probably written by Mark from Peter's account, right? Or, in some cases, almost written by Peter as Mark was writing it down. Mark also emphasizes really personal, human type details about Jesus, like he was a carpenter. He emphasizes things, if you read through the book of Mark. He's hungry, he's angry, he's sad, he's tired, right? Human emotions. This is very much saying Jesus was a human. He suffered like you suffer, and he is going to save us, right? Not the emphasis as much on his deity. The emphasis is on his humanity. Mark really is directed to the marginalized or disenfranchised in society, which, again, as we know about Roman culture, is a lot of Roman culture was slaves, marginalized. It was hard. The Roman life was not for everyone. Again, emphasized here, Jesus as God's servant. It's appealing for the thousands of slaves during the Roman Empire, as well as those today who are marginalized. This is probably the most common evangelical track, is they will give you just the book of Mark because it's short, it's concise, it talks about the details of Jesus as a human, the details of Jesus as a servant, what he is doing, what he hopes to do, and it's a shorter book. So you can already hopefully see the contrast between Matthew and Mark. Matthew, written to a Jewish culture, emphasizing Jesus as the Messiah that they already had details about, right? You already know what the Messiah is supposed to look like. This is in the book of Isaiah, which you have already read. Here's how Jesus meets those. Mark, written to your Roman Christian or your Roman slave somewhere in Rome, building buildings for the emperor, right? How does Jesus help you every day? How did he come for you, person in Roman culture? So you can see already that yes, there are similar stories about Jesus, but they're really meant for such a diverse audience. Okay, I will make you another video for Thursday.